Democracy Now! Our guests today are Christine Schuler Deschryver. She's a Congolese human rights activist just here in New York for a bit of time. Thrilled we could have her in studio, director of V-Day Congo and the City of Joy. Ensler, award-winning playwright and creator of the Vagina Monologues and V-Day, the global movement to stop violence against women and girls. Eve, you're about to win an award at the Tonys. Congratulations for that, the Isabel Stevenson Award for Humanitarian Efforts to Stop Violence.
Thank you. I'm very humbled and moved, and I'm also excited because I think it's an acknowledgement on some level that theater can impact social reality and can create revolutions and can change the world, can change people. And it's also, I think, an acknowledgement of women and the power of women around the world to use theater to raise money, to transform their own lives, and to break taboos. So I'm very excited.
Well, one of the countries you've been working in extensively, raising money for women, is in Haiti. In January, as Haiti marked the first anniversary of the devastating earthquake that killed, well, not clear how many people, perhaps close to 250,000 people, Amnesty International warned Haitian women and girls are facing an increasing threat of sexual violence. Amnesty said more than 250 cases of rape in several makeshift camps were reported in the first 150 days after the January 14, 2010 quake. Gerardo Ducos is a researcher for Amnesty in Haiti.
The women and girls are being attacked under their shelters, in the camps, dragged by a group of men into a secluded area or into another tent and just being raped there. Because in most of the camps there is no lighting at night or even the streets, so obviously that creates an environment that is conducive to these kind of aggressions.
That is about Haiti, the situation in Haiti. You were supposed to be joined this week by a Haitian feminist women's rights activist, Elvire Eugene, but she didn't get a passport to come up.
No, and we're very sad because we have our big event, our fundraising event tomorrow night, and she's an extraordinary activist. And I think it kind of typifies the situation in Haiti. She went to get a passport, and there's no records of people's passports. So for 3 weeks, she was trying to get. It's really a kind of Beckett-like situation. You go to the office for passports, but there's no records of anybody's passport, so there's no beginning place to get your passport. So she's stuck there. And to me, having just been in Haiti a month ago or so, I was really shocked just to see the state of existence in Haiti right now. I was shocked to see how little of that money has arrived that the world has promised, shocked to see that the conditions really had not improved drastically at all, shocked to see really the situation that women are living in terms of the camps and the incredible vulnerability of women. And how, just one particular story of a woman who I met with who had her daughter in the camp and had a wonderful job. She had jobs beforehand, she was making money, and the earthquake wiped out her job, and she was there in the camp, and she went to church and she left her daughter, and when she came back, her daughter was bleeding, and she went to see what was wrong with her daughter, and then her daughter had been raped by an old man, and her daughter then began to get this terrible infection which she had no money to fix, and she's been infected ever since, and her mother has nowhere to go, and there's no way, and now she can't leave the camp to get a job because she can't leave her daughter who could be raped again because she was a wonderful mother. And I think this is a very typical situation. And I think what's really disturbing is where's the money? I mean, that's something we talk about a lot, like where does the money go that comes to these countries, right?
Christine.
Yeah, because we do have the same problem, in DRC. Every morning when we turn on the radios, we can hear that millions and millions for Congo. And at the end, who's taking benefit of all this money? It's not the Congolese. It's like, you do have in some NGOs, international NGOs, for example, in DRC, you have like more than 25 expats So do you know how much money it costs for an expat? And we do have lots of human resources in DRC.
What do you mean, an expat?
An expat, that means they decided to bring like people from outside to take care of the Congolese. So all the monies go to the salaries, to their comfort, to their cars and everything. And at the end, you just have few parts living for the Congolese. They don't even give enough job. And when they have job, they're not paid. And I think slowly, that the Congolese have to take, their power back and decide how the money has to be used, because all this money goes to the outside debt from Congo, and they don't even take benefit of that money, and that's something that really get me so mad. Because it's like everyone has his conscience and say, we gave this amount of million to Congolese, but what for? It's like for the UN. What for? What are they really doing for the Congolese? Even like I said before, like all the program for the social economic reintegration, some NGOs have big reports that they integrated X thousands of women, but how? How can you integrate a woman, for example, in a community with a sewing machine? How can you do that? Today, the market is invaded with all the Chinese clothes and everything. So I think sometimes Congolese need to ask, for international audit to see how much money they had for themselves, how much was used, and how much left for them. Because we cannot continue like this. Otherwise, in the next 50 years, we will still, international community will still assist the Congolese, and nothing will ever change. And I don't want to hear again that people saying that the problem in Congo is too complicated. People just want to say it's too complicated because they have their own interest and they don't care at all about what's going on.
Christine, talk about your own coming to activism. What caused you to be so active on this issue and become the director of the City of Joy?
It's also due to my own history, because I was born from, my mother is Congolese. She was never at school, and my father was a child of a very rich Belgian colonialist. So I saw my mother suffering all her life just because she was black. And it was forbidden at that time for them to get married. So since I was a little child, and when they sent me to school in Belgium, I was like member of, already when I was 12 years old, I was like, demonstrating on the street against racism, against all this, because I could not accept that you can suffer because of the color of your skin. Even myself, I don't know from where I am. I'm kind of a world citizen, but the only thing I know is that Congo is my country. Because even if when I'm in Belgium, in America, in Switzerland, when I go home, I'm going to Congo. And then, of course, I lost so many friends, so many relatives because of this stupid war. And before I met Eve, I was working for 13 years for the German Technical Corporation, who most of the time just told me, I'm sorry, just to shut up and to do my work. And by the time I met Eve Ensler from V-Day, I was like, my goodness, I'm losing my time. So I resigned, because I would like to do something for this country where I was born. I would like to do something in the name of all my friends and my relatives I've lost. And I feel so useful now, instead of being in my office and doing all this stupid administration. Now I have to say I feel very useful for DRC and for the Congolese people.
And Eve, for people who aren't familiar with this movement V-Day and what it is you're doing in Congo and other places, and how this all grew out of the Vagina Monologues and what it is.
Well, I performed the Vagina Monologues for a while at the beginning in very kind of obscure places, because only very brave people would bring me there. I'd be in Santa Fe one day, and the next day I'd be in Pittsburgh, and then I'd be in Zagreb. It was very arbitrary where I would end up. But what I discovered very quickly was that many, many, many women would come up to me after the show to talk about how they've been raped or abused, and it was shocking. You know, it was epidemic. It was kind of like the play had unearthed what a lot of women had already been working on at that time, but I never knew the degree of it. And I thought in 1998, we have this play. You know, what could we do with this play to end violence against women? Not to maintain it or manage it, but to actually end it, you know? And we started one show, one performance in New York, and you know, and all these great actors came and performed it, and 2,500 people came. And that was almost 14 years ago, and it kind of opened the door to V-Day, and it just began to spread like wildfire.
I just saw you at the Paley Center being interviewed by Pat Mitchell, who used to be at CNN, and she talked about when she first interviewed you, and she was identifying you as the author of the monologues, the Vagina Monologues. She couldn't say because CNN wouldn't allow that word to be used. They've since changed their policy. But what it is, what this play is, and why it has caused this world revolution?
Well, I think in a way it is a world revolution. You know, to some degree I understand it, to some degree I don't. I think there's something about uttering unspeakable things that breaks a silence and begins to liberate people. And I think women performing the play all over the world in, you know, 140 countries. Yeah.
Keep going.
No, this year there were about 5,000 productions, and I think being able to speak about your sexuality, being able to tell your secrets, being able to long for pleasure, being able to talk about how your pleasure has been derailed, being able to talk about where you've been abused, where you've been raped, where you've been incested, where you've been cut, where you've been sold. You know, we're talking about 1 out of 3 women on the planet have been raped or beaten.
I want to ask you about an issue in New York right now. Dominique Strauss-Kahn, the former head of the IMF, who was just arraigned pleading not guilty to abusing a housekeeper at a hotel here in New York, a Muslim African woman.
Well, I think there's many things about the story that are very, very positive, and many things that are horrific. We'll begin with horrific. You know, I think the fact that DSK raped and attacked a housekeeper in the Sofitel is not a surprise based on the history of DSK and the history of men in power and the history of the man who's the head of IMF, which is busy raping Africa anyway. I think, you know, we're not like shocked by that idea, because based on interviews of everybody who's talked about him, down to Sarkozy, who told him after he hired him, don't be caught alone in a elevator with an intern. We don't want a scandal. Everyone in France was very aware of DSK's problem, and really the fact that he had issues with women.
30 seconds.
I think what's amazing is that a woman has come forward to prosecute, and that a female judge held it. And I think that is where the world has changed. And I think we all need to get behind that woman with all our beings and make sure she gets a fair trial, and make sure she gets a lawyer, and make sure she gets the kind of lawyers that DSK has, so she will have equal justice.
We're going to leave it there. I thank you very much for being with us. Eve Ensler, the award-winning playwright, creator of the Vagina Monologues and V-Day, and Christine Schuler Deschryver, who is a Congolese human rights activist and director of V-Day Congo and the City of Joy. That does it for our broadcast.